There is no hidden crash footage that changes the verdict on Max Verstappen's Dutch Grand Prix accident, and despite the viral claims suggesting the FIA unearthed new evidence against Red Bull, the only official investigation opened during that chaotic red flag period targeted 3 completely different drivers for yellow flag infringements. Everyone expected a technical inquiry into the RB22 after such a violent opening lap exit at Zandvoort, yet the stewards never even reviewed Verstappen's car for component failure because the cause was already painfully obvious to race control. A 50-centimeter strip of residual dampness from a pre-race shower sat just inside the dry line exiting the final corner banking, and while Verstappen managed the first contact with that wet patch, he lost the rear on the second when he got back on throttle believing the corner had finally dried. He hit the wall heavily but walked away unhurt, leaving fans desperate for a scandal that simply does not exist in the official record. So, if there is no secret footage and no pending penalty against the championship leader, what exactly changed everything about this weekend? And why does the real story matter more than the internet rumor mill wants you to believe? The answer lies buried in the timing of the incident itself and the uncomfortable reality facing Zandvoort as a venue, creating a tension between what we thought happened and what the data actually shows. This isn't about a cover-up, it's about context. The narrative shifted instantly. Most viewers assume that when a title mentions hidden footage and huge news, there must be a smoking gun waiting to drop. But the actual twist here is that the absence of any FIA scrutiny against Red Bull is the most significant development of the entire weekend. Think about what that silence means for the 2026 championship fight. While social media circles speculated about withheld telemetry or suppressed camera angles, the real regulatory action was happening elsewhere in the pit lane, far removed from Verstappen's garage. Franco Colapinto, Arvid Lindblad, and Esteban Ocon were the ones under the microscope for alleged yellow flag violations committed in the immediate aftermath of the crash, not Verstappen himself. This distinction is critical because it confirms that race control viewed the accident as a track condition issue rather than a sporting infringement or mechanical failure. The wet strip was the culprit, driver judgment was the variable. No conspiracy emerged. Yet the feeling that something fundamental has shifted remains valid, just not for the reasons trending online. The huge news isn't a punishment, it is the realization that Verstappen's home race might have ended on lap 1 for the last time in his current stint, with reports indicating Zandvoort has no contract with Formula 1 beyond this 2026 edition. That potential finality recontextualizes every frame of onboard video, turning what looked like a routine DNF into a possible farewell. We know he clipped the wet patch twice. We know he believed the track was safe. We know the impact was severe enough to stop the race for roughly an hour. But knowing the physical facts doesn't explain why the emotional weight of this moment feels so much heavier than a standard retirement, or why the lack of hidden footage is actually the most important piece of information we have received all season. The physics of that specific moment exiting the final corner banking reveal why even a world champion could not save the car once the rear tires found that unexpected moisture. Verstappen was applying throttle precisely when the RB22 transitioned from the high-banked asphalt onto the flatter exit zone, a geometric shift that already unloads the rear suspension and reduces mechanical grip at the exact instant he encountered the 50-centimeter wet strip. The first clip was survivable because he was still mid-corner with steering low keeping the tire pressed into the surface, but the second contact occurred during the critical traction phase where longitudinal forces dominate and lateral stability is minimal. He had committed to the acceleration point based on visual cues that suggested the racing line was completely dry, a reasonable assumption given that the pre-race shower had ended well before lights out and the rest of the circuit had rubbered in normally. Water pooled there. Grip vanished instantly. The differential torque between the left and right rear tires created an unrecoverable yaw moment that no amount of steering correction or throttle modulation could counteract in the remaining meters before the barrier. This wasn't driver error in the traditional sense of misjudging braking points or carrying too much entry speed, it was a catastrophic mismatch between expected track conditions and actual surface friction coefficients at the worst possible location for such a discrepancy. Race engineers later confirmed that telemetry showed normal power delivery and brake temperatures consistent with a dry line approach, meaning the car was being operated exactly as it should have been for the conditions everyone believed existed. The wall impact registered significant G-forces, yet the survival cell performed flawlessly and Verstappen exited the cockpit without injury, which speaks to both the safety standards of the 2026 regulations and the sheer luck of hitting the barrier at an angle that dissipated energy rather than concentrating it. Zandvoort's unique topography makes this particular section notoriously difficult to drain after rain, and the combination of elevation change, banking compression, and shadow patterns from the surrounding dunes creates microclimates that can fool even experienced marshals conducting pre-race inspections. 50 centimeters sounds negligible on paper. It proved decisive. One patch defined everything. The entire weekend narrative collapsed in less than 2 seconds of lost traction, transforming what should have been a celebratory home appearance into a case study in how marginal environmental variables can override years of preparation and engineering excellence. So, where does that leave us regarding the broader implications of this incident? When we examine the sequence frame by frame, the absence of any corrective steering input after the second clip becomes the most telling detail, because it confirms that Verstappen recognized immediately that the loss of grip was total and irreversible rather than something he could fight through with talent alone. That recognition in real time is what separates elite drivers from the rest of the grid, even when the outcome remains unchanged. The dampness wasn't visible, the consequence was absolute. Track evolution models used by teams during practice sessions had predicted drying rates based on ambient temperature and wind direction, but those algorithms cannot account for localized water retention in textured asphalt surfaces that have been resurfaced or patched in recent maintenance cycles. This gap between simulation and reality is where championships are sometimes decided, not through superior pace or strategy, but through exposure to variables that exist outside the predictive capacity of even the most sophisticated motorsport organizations. Picture this for a second. You are sitting in a dimly lit steward's room with monitors glowing. Your entire focus is locked on 3 midfield drivers navigating under caution. That was the actual reality inside race control during the 60-minute stoppage at Zandvoort. Franco Colapinto, Arvid Lindblad, and Esteban Ocon became the sole subjects of official scrutiny. They were investigated for alleged yellow flag infringements committed after Verstappen's crash. The internet manufactured a parallel investigation that never actually existed. People spun theories about suppressed onboard footage or delayed technical inspections targeting Red Bull. The documented regulatory activity remained entirely focused on sporting conduct violations. These issues were completely unrelated to the accident itself. Colapinto received a confirmed drive-through penalty for his actions. Lindblad also received a confirmed drive-through penalty for similar conduct. Ocon was investigated but ultimately cleared by the stewards. This created a clean separation between safety protocol violators and the crash victim. The FIA viewed the incident as a closed matter within minutes. No forensic analysis of hidden camera feeds was ever required. No verified source mentions any withheld footage from the session. No team statement from Christian Horner disputes the handling of the incident. No media outlet connected the yellow flag probe to Verstappen's crash. Race fans led their coverage with the red flag framing. The race treated the session stoppage in a similar manner. Sky Sports quoted Verstappen expressing relief rather than grievance over the outcome. He characterized the impact as one that could have been far worse. That quote signals acceptance rather than contention regarding the cause. The rumor mill operates on an absence of concrete information. It fills silence with speculation instead of verified facts. The actual record is remarkably complete and unambiguous about regulatory attention. 3 specific names appeared in the official investigation documents. Verstappen's name was not among those listed in the reports. The penalties were confirmed and served before the race resumed. Yet the hidden footage narrative persists across social media platforms. This reveals how audiences process high-profile incidents involving dominant teams. Viewers expect complexity where procedural simplicity actually exists. They assume institutional bias where standard procedure prevails. Data confirms the timeline of events without contradiction. Investigations targeted other drivers exclusively during the stoppage. Red Bull faced no inquiry regarding their car or driver. This is not ambiguity, but resolution delivered through proper channels. It simply lacks the dramatic tension required for viral discourse. The gap between rumored and real investigations represents a fundamental disconnect. Paddock reality differs sharply from digital perception. Additional footage could not bridge this divide even if it existed. The missing video does not address the question being asked. Fans want justification for their disappointment about the result. What they got instead was standard regulatory procedure. Remember how this all started, with the definitive statement that no hidden crash footage changes the verdict on Verstappen's accident. And that absence of evidence is exactly what allowed the race to restart cleanly and produce a legitimate sporting result rather than a contested regulatory farce. Lando Norris capitalized on that clean restart to overtake Andrea Kimi Antonelli in the closing third of the race, securing his 2nd consecutive victory of the 2026 season while George Russell completed the podium in 3rd place. Antonelli had initially seized the lead when racing resumed after the hour-long stoppage, demonstrating impressive pace on cold tires and a green track surface. Norris bided his time strategically. He managed tire degradation better than his rival during the middle stint. The overtake came late but decisively. This victory extends Norris's winning streak to 2 races. It also reinforces McLaren's position as the team to beat in this championship cycle. Russell's 3rd place finish ensured Mercedes maintained consistent point scoring despite lacking ultimate pace. The competitive order reshuffled dramatically without Verstappen's presence at the front. Field spread increased significantly. Strategy calls became more variable across the grid. Teams adapted pit windows to account for the reset race distance. Tire compounds behaved differently on the cooled asphalt post-red flag. Engineers recalibrated fuel loads during the stoppage. Data streams reset completely. Performance deltas shifted unexpectedly. Midfield battles intensified as a direct consequence. Overtaking opportunities multiplied in the final laps. The race delivered genuine sporting drama independent of any controversy surrounding the opening lap incident. Norris proved his Zandvoort win was earned through execution rather than circumstance. Antonelli showed maturity beyond his experience level by holding second under pressure. Russell demonstrated veteran racecraft to secure valuable constructors' points. These performances stand on their own merit. They require no external validation from conspiracy theories or fabricated investigations. The sporting outcome remains untainted by procedural disputes. Championship standings reflect actual on-track performance. Points were awarded based on finishing position alone. No post-race penalties altered the classification. No appeals were lodged against the results. The FIA published final classifications without amendment. Media coverage focused appropriately on the competitive narrative. Sky Sports highlighted Norris's strategic patience. The race emphasized Antonelli's promising development trajectory. Race fans analyzed Russell's tire management approach. Each outlet treated the result as legitimate and complete. Fan engagement centered on genuine racing excitement. Social media celebrated authentic competition. The hidden footage myth failed to gain traction in professional discourse because it had no bearing on the actual sporting contest that unfolded after the red flag period concluded.